Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello teachers, welcome back to Assessment in ALT class. Our topic today is affective assessment, and we are going to talk about explanation of affective assessment that will be delivered by me, rubrics for affective assessment by Lina Sofia, and 3 journals related to affective assessment that will be delivered by Emma, Vajriyati, and Umi. There are 3 domains of Bloom's taxonomy, namely cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. The previous weeks, our friends have discussed cognitive assessment and psychomotor assessment. Unlike the previous domains that focus on knowledge and skills, affective assessment focuses on students' feelings, emotions, attitude, and behavior. Speaking about affective assessment, I often heard an ironic quote, "School but not educated." We may have known people who have higher education, study and popular universities, master in using grammar, can solve math problems, and know almost everything, but they do littering anywhere. They don't respect older people, they do corruption, they don't keep their promises, they broke the rules, and many other bad attitudes. So that is why affective assessment is crucial to internalize to the students. Even a recent study reveals that one's attitude is a better predictor of a success than IQ. This shows how really important attitude is. Hall 1964 proposed 5 levels of taxonomy for affective assessment, namely receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and characterization. I will explain them one by one. Receiving. Receiving refers to the student's willingness to attend to particular phenomena. For example, listening to a group discussion, paying attention to the teacher's instruction, and etc. To get the student's attention, we can use the illustrative verbs available here, like ask, choose, describe, follow, identify, and point. And the second level of Hall's taxonomy is responding. Responding refers to active participation of the students. They not only attend to a particular phenomenon, but also react to it, such as participating in problem solving. And to get the students participate, we can use the verbs like assess, perform, present, and tell. Now we move to the third level, that is valuing. Valuing means being willing to be perceived by others as appreciating certain ideas, materials, or phenomena. And here we can use verbs like complete, explain, propose, or discuss. And the fourth level is organization. Organization is concerned with integrating a new value to those already held. And here we can use the verbs like arrange, identify, combine, and relate. And then the last one is characterization. Characterization means to act consistently in accordance to the values that the individual has internalized. Here we can use verbs like display, practice, use, and perform. In short, in the first level, we should get the students' attention and then encourage them to participate, and after that help them discuss new ideas, and after that help students solve the problems, and at the top we should encourage students to transfer ideas to their daily life. There are 5 aspects of affective assessment in Curriculum 13. They are attitude, interest, self-concept, value, and moral. Attitude refers to the disposition of an individual to respond to an object, situation, and concept, either positively or negatively. And then interest is defined as a disposition organized through experience that encourages an individual to acquire specific objects, activities, understandings, and skills for attention or achievement purposes. And then the third one, self-concept, refers to evaluation by individuals of their abilities and weaknesses. And the fourth one, value. Value is a belief about action and behavior that are considered good or bad. And the last one, moral. Moral refers to feelings, right or wrong, about the happiness of others, or feelings toward individuals' own action. So that's all the explanation of affective assessment. And then we will move to the rubrics of affective assessment that will be delivered by Lina Sofia.
Thank you, Mas Anjar. I will continue the presentation in preparing affective assessment or how to make the rubric. So here I will present the steps of making the rubric, giving score, and then common words used as keyword of affective assessment, and the last, the examples. Well, in the steps of making the rubric, first of all, we need to consider the aspect of affective assessment. Are we going to assess one of them, or are we going to assess all of them? Second, we decide the indicators that will be used to know the aspect. For example, students' attendance list percentage for attitude, student activity, for student self-concept, such as their contribution and reaction, and so on. The third, we decide the scale, and the common scale used is from Likert, that consists of 5 grades: lowest, low, average, high, and highest. The fourth, we write the instrument of affective assessment, such as questionnaire for students' interest and worksheet checklist for students' attitude. Then we cooperate with colleges to ask their suggestion related to the instrument, and if we get some suggestion, we revise it. The last, we give the score and analyze students' characteristic. Give score include in knowing student characteristic based on the aspect we assess. So in giving the score, we need to decide how many items in instrument used. For example, I will use 10 items to assess student interest. Then multiply the item by the Likert scale. From 10 items, I will multiply it by 1 to find the lowest scale, and 5 to find the highest scale. Then we use them to find median score. Actually, median score, lowest scale, highest scale are used to define the characteristic of student based on activity affective side, sorry. So for example, here we have 10 as the lowest and 50 as the highest, and we find 30 as the median score. So there will be two categories in the score 10 to 30, and two categories in the score or scale 31 to 50. Last, we decide the characteristic into 5 categories. For example, 10 to 20 includes students not interested in the lesson, 21 to 30 includes students get less interest, 31 to 40 includes students are interested, 40 to 50 includes students are facilitating in the lesson. Then, we know how is the student's characteristic related to the aspect of affective side. Then here, the common words used as keyword of affective assessment. So don't worry if you want to make affective instrument, affective questionnaire, affective assessment, there are some keywords or words that is used to show that you are going to do affective assessment, and it is represented in 5 aspects: receiving, responding, valuing, organization, and characterization. Actually, I write it in Bahasa or Indonesian language because I expect that this presentation will help you in real life to to make the rubric of affective assessment easier. That's why I show you in Bahasa. So you may read it by your own self, and I will continue to the example. The first example showing assessing affective side in whole aspects. Menghargai, persahabatan, toleransi, sinergi, jujur. And this rubric use Likhart's scale to grade the characteristic of students' affective side. For the second example, it shows more specific aspect, which is in attitude aspects. But this rubric only used for scale. And the last example is the example of the instrument of assessing affective side of the students. So you may see that this is the sentence that will use to evaluate, to assess students' affective side, specifically in interest of the lesson. And this instrument use Likhart's scale to found to know the characteristic of student interest. Well, that's all from me. Thank you very much. And the next presenter is Fadriati Waiba Musambonga. So, to Ms. Musambonga, time is yours.
Thank you, Sophie. Well, here, me, Emma Sirahayu, will present the article with entitled Designing Affective Instrument Based on Scientific Approach for English Language Learning, written by Ira Marsirah, Muhammad Zaim, Hermawati Sharif, and Alwin Bentry. And according to NITCO 2001, state that an assessment is a process obtaining information that is used for making decisions about student, curriculum, program, and education policy. In education, a teacher has an important role in assessing the progress of student competence in learning, such as cognitive, affective, and psychomotor competence. These 3 competencies are related to each other. Affective competence includes objective, which describe changes in interest, attitude, and values, and the development of appreciation and adequate adjustment. The purpose of assessment is to view the student's learning progress, the student learning outcome, and to detect the problems of learning, in order to improve the quality of learning in the future. That's why the English teachers need an appropriate instrument to assess the goodness of the student's affective. Based on the preliminary study that was conducted at junior high school in Merangin district of Jambi province, it was found that the English teacher had not an appropriate instrument to assess the student affective during the teaching and learning process. Moreover, the English teacher said that the progress of student affective is very important to be known in order to rank the best student in the classroom. It means the first rank will be given to the student who has higher intelligence and best attitude only. In other words, even though there is a student who is good in cognitive but has a bad attitude, the first rank cannot be given to him or her. To overcome this problem, Brown explained that a teacher can use journal, interview, observation, self-assessment, and peer assessment to assess the student affective. But Indonesian government only provides a general guideline in assessing student affective. Its purpose is the teacher or hope can develop the effective instrument based on the subject which is taught by the teachers. In fact, the English teacher were still having the difficulties in designing an effective instrument. It was caused by they must relate the assessment based on the approach of teaching, that is, scientific approach. Here, there are 5 stages of scientific approach. The first is observing and then questioning, experimenting, associating, and communicating. So, the English teacher must assess the student affective in these 5 stages. This study aimed to designing of instrument for affective assessment in English language teaching. The focus of the designing was only for observation sheet that will be used by English teacher during the teaching and learning process. Next method. In designing the instrument of affective assessment based on scientific approach for English language classroom, the researcher used AD models. This model is suitable because it has 5 stages such as analyze, design, develop, implementation, and evaluation. So, the researcher analyzed the English teacher's need toward the effective assessment that was developed. The researchers took 6 English teachers from the 3 junior high school in Merangin district of Jambi province as the informants for of choosing these 6 English teachers was because they taught English at school by using scientific approach. Furthermore, in gathering the data, the researcher used open-ended questionnaires. The 6 English teachers were asked to fill the questionnaire in order to know their needs. Then, the researcher was sorting out the English teacher needs in accordance with the objective or the result to be achieved from this research. After that, the researcher designed the instrument of affective assessment based on scientific approach for English learning that is connecting the theories and needs in the field. Result and discussion. Before designing the instrument for affective assessment, the researchers analyzed the teacher's need in order to find out the instrument for affective assessment, which is appropriate for English language teaching. Then, to find out the teacher's need, the researcher used open-ended question. Here, the teacher used what, how, and why concept to reach the valuable insight from the English teachers. Based on the answer given by the informants, it is known that there are 18 types of affective. This type will become an input to the learning outcome which is called as the affective entry characteristic. And specifically, these type of affective are divided into 5 stages, where in each stage consists with the affective orientation. And then, based on the objective of this research, the designing of instrument for affective assessment is only for observation sheet that is used by English teachers during the teaching and learning process. The observation, which is done by the teacher, is agreed will be more effective than other instruments such as journals, interviews, self-assessment, and peer assessment. That's why it is hoped that English teacher can assess the student affective objectively. Some of instrument for affective assessment based on scientific approach can be seen in the table below. In accordance with the teacher's hope, the researcher took model that is suggested by Joyce et al. In 1992. This model consists of 5 elements. The first is syntax, consists of 2 aspects, the guidance and the indicator and scoring rubric for instrument. The second is social system, consists of 2 aspects, the user of instrument and the target of application. The third is principle of reaction, consists of 3 aspects, will be done in every stage, will be aimed into 5 levels, and will be focused into some types of affective. The fourth is support system, is instrument of affective assessment based on scientific approach, and the last is instructional and deterrent effect, hope that the student affective can be controlled during the teaching and learning process. Conclusion: assessing affective has its own unique problem. Assessing affective is not simple one because a teacher infers the relationship between behaviors and what the students say. The affective itself is the result of many complex factors such as previous experience, expectation of others, and consequences of a particular act. Unfortunately, sometimes a teacher found inconsistently of affective that is solved by the student every day. But it doesn't mean that the affective can be assessed. Absolutely, in teaching and learning process, everything can be assessed. It needs the responsible of the teachers being patient and creative in carrying out the roles as the teachers. Okay, thank you. That's all for me. There are still 2 articles which will be continued by Kafajri. Kafajri, time is yours.
I am Fajriati Webah Musambonga as the fourth presenter of this presentation. I'm going to present review of article related to the affective assessment entitled Issues in Designing Instrument for Affective Assessment based on Scientific Approach, English Teacher's Reflection. This research was describing the issues in designing instrument for affective assessment based on scientific approach. It is a reflection of English teachers in assessing the students' affective in English language teaching. Education is hoped can give best input in order to form the students' characteristics in the 3 domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Anderson and Bourg 2000. Moreover, the successful of education is also proved by the best assessment in cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domain. So it is needed for the teacher, included English teachers, to construct the assessment in these 3 domains. Marzano 2006. Assessing the cognitive and psychomotor domains is not as difficult as in assessing affective domain. Bloom 1956 describes that affective is the changing of attitude and values which are expressed and solved by someone. Then Zohar and Marshall 2000 believe that the student who has good spiritual value will be a good person in his or her life. In addition, based on the results of monitoring and evaluation related to the implementation of Curriculum 2013 at junior high school in 2014 that was conducted by the Directorate of Junior High School Development, it indicates that one of the teachers' difficulties in implementing the Curriculum 2013 was in carrying out the assessment. Ministry of Education and Culture 2015. Besides, it was found that more than 50% of teachers state that they have not been able to design, implement, and process the assessment results properly. They added that the main difficulties are in formulating the indicators of assessment, compiling instrument items, and carrying out an effective assessment with various techniques. In English language teaching, an English teacher is not only forced to assess the students' competence on language, but also their affective. Good affective is believed can support the students' successfulness in learning. That's why the English teacher must assess the student's affective frequently and continuously as an attempt to gain the progresses and the change of students' affective during the learning process. But the English teachers have some problems in designing instruments for affective assessment based on scientific approach. So it's become the main issue in doing the evaluation for English classroom. For the research methods, the researcher used qualitative method by giving depth interview with the English teachers in junior high school in order to point out the issues. The researcher observes directly by herself or himself and reports in detail what he or she found during the field observation. This research was done at 3 public junior high schools in Merangin district of Jambi province. The reason of choosing these schools was because they had been implementing the curriculum 2013. The researcher determined 6 English teachers who were teaching English at 7th grade as the informant of the research. The reason of choosing these teachers was based on purposive sampling technique, in which they had been teaching English at the classroom by using scientific approach. The questions of interview are related to the English teacher's perception, especially in designing instrument of affective assessment based on scientific approach. The researcher also did pilot interview. It means the researcher tried out the interview guide, procedures and planned analysis before the main research begins. The tryout was done by using a small group from the same population or a similar population to the one being researched. Then the feedback from a small pilot research was used to add, remove or revise interview questions. The researcher had done 5 steps in analyzing the data, such as managing data, reading or memoing, description, classifying, and interpreting by made description in narration form about the result found during the interview. In finding and discussion section, it's found that 1. The instrument used by English teachers in assessing affective was still general, not based on basis in the scientific approach. The assessment of students' affective can be concluded at the end of the semester. On the contrary, in the curriculum 2013, the English teacher is hoped can assess the students' affective during the teaching and learning process in every meeting. This demand makes the English teachers hard to do the affective assessment because they have to teach also while doing the assessment. Further, this problem is also caused by there is no instrument for assessing affective whether in form of hard copy or soft copy. In this case, the government asked the English teachers to design the instrument for affective assessment by their own format related to the subject and approach of learning. The request from government is very hard for the English teachers, considering they have limited time because they have to teach 24 hours a week at school. Besides, some of the English teachers also have lack of skill in operating the computer. 2. The indicator for scoring affective could not define the specific description for each type of affective. 3. The English teachers focused on one attitude to be assessed. And 4. The instrument used in assessing affective was a blank paper without any instruction, explanation, or table for noting the students' scores. Finally, the English teacher's reflection in designing instrument for affective assessment is issued into the English teacher's difficulties in deciding the level of affective taxonomy that can be assessed in each meeting. In the end, this research concludes that the formulation of new curriculum creates some problems. It can be seen from the issues which are reflected by English teachers in designing instruments for assessing students' affective. That is why the suitable and appropriate instrument based on subject and approach used in English language teaching for assessing affective domain is much needed to design. For the last presentation will be presented by Umi Kausum.
I'm going to explain the journal conducted by Nurul Imtihan and Ahyar in the academic year 2018 entitled Analysis of Problem and Need on the Effective Assessment Implementation for Learners in Madrasah Aliyah. The predicate is a public school characteristic of Islamic religion attached to Madrasah Aliyah institution. It demands the releasing the character of morality as an excellence value for learners. However, the system applied in this institution still has the weaknesses. Therefore, it needs more effort to improve its quality. So, the goal of this journal is to report various issues in affective domain related to an effort to understand the needs of teachers in implementing affective assessment in Madrasah Aliyah. The study investigated 6 research questions, such as: how is the teacher's perception of the assessment of the effective domain? Then, has the teacher conducted an effective assessment of the learner? Next research questions: how does the teacher conduct an effective domain assessment? Another research question: do teachers use certain instruments to assess affective abilities? And what are the constraints faced in conducting affective assessment? And the last one: how does the teacher or madrasah utilize the effective assessment results in attempt to improve the learning approach? This study was conducted in Mataram City, West Nusa Tenggara Province. Descriptive qualitative approach is used by this study because the aims of this study is to describe the integrity of existing problems in effective domain assessment in Madrasah Aliyah. For data collection method, the researchers used focus group discussion or FGD and used some kind of interviews. And then for data analysis techniques, the researchers used inductive analysis model. And then for the research subject of the study are headmaster and teachers in Madrasah Aliyah. There are 3 procedures in conducting this research, namely research preparation, and then implementation of research, and the last one, reporting of research result. In the part of research preparation, the researcher prepares the research design by preparing the necessary technical and equipment such as interview guides, records, and bullet notes, and then determining the data source and conveying the permit from the institution itself. And then in the implementation of research part, the researcher conducting preliminary interviews by using WhatsApp group application, and then followed by FGD meeting. In the last part of the procedures, the researcher analyzed and interpreted the data. After that, they wrote the report in qualitative form. The finding of the study shows that there are different perceptions and practices in the assessment of affective domain. In this case, some teachers assess this domain by using assessment guidelines differently. Most teachers assume that if students are be disciplined and obey to teachers, they have good achievement of affective domain. And then with that, students sit quietly and pay attention to what teachers explained. They will get good score. In the contrary, students who not calm will get less score. The answer of the third questions related to how does the teacher conduct this effective domain. In this case, some teachers make effective domain without using instruments or assessment format, so the indicator to be assessed here becomes unclear. Even some teachers make effective judgment by taking from the cognitive value, such as student score from daily tests, midterm replay, and semester rejection. They use those scores for effective assessment without observing a true effective assessment. The answer of the fourth question about do teachers use certain instruments to assess effective assessment? Here, some teachers conduct effective assessment using test instruments as they do cognitive assessment. In this case, teachers distribute questionnaire to the students. However, the question item of the questionnaire lead to cognitive assessment, such as which movement is called as takbiratul ihram. In this case, teachers want to know whether students always pray or not. But if the question like that, although students are hardly ever praying, they will be able to answer the question easily, because they have learned the procedure of praying anyway. The answer of the fifth questions about what are the constraints faced in conducting effective assessment. In this case, some teachers assume that the effective assessment is only for filling out the report of the student learning outcomes or report. Teachers conduct this assessment in the end of the semester. Besides, learners' effective adjustment was only reported in the form of symbols such as A, B, C, D, and E. This condition shows that the planning and the mechanism of effective domain assessment is still not maximized. As a result, the effective score written by a teacher on the report is not in accordance with the reality. The conclusion of this study: actually, teachers in this institution, Madrasah Aliyah, have conducted effective assessment. It is just not formulated clearly which aspects are assessed. The habit of assessing the effective aspect using the test as assessing cognitive aspect must be changed, because it can be said to be detrimental to the students. Thank you.